coordinator. Oh, thank you. See, I would have forgot.
No problem. We got you. Teamwork.
And we will, Hannah?
Hi, everyone. My name is Hannah Page, and I do operations and communications for MOAR.
And we have Corey.
Hi everyone, I'm Corey. I'm more with MOAR. Nice to be here.
And Julie, am I going to be able to hear you tonight?
I hope so.
Oh, yes.
I'm using my phone. Good evening, everybody. My name is Julie, and I am a recovery coach with MOAR.
Okay, and we have Denise.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Denise. I'm the Assistant Program Director for MOAR.
And we have Kirsten.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Kirsten Puccio, and I am the Central Mass Regional Coordinator for MOAR.
And we have our ACL operators, and we have William, who is our technical person, and we have Juan, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. My name is Juan, the Executive Director of the Hispanic American Library.
And the MOAR mission is to organize recovery individuals, families, and friends into a collective voice to educate the public about the value of recovery from alcohol and other addictions. Our MOAR DEI statement, Massachusetts Organization for Addiction Recovery is a voice for all people seeking the benefits of recovery. We are committed to doing the work necessary to address the struggles and equities diverse groups of people face while seeking recovery services. Systematic racism, prejudice, discrimination, and bias have been deeply ingrained in the history of the American healthcare system. MOAR is committed to work to create a collective voice for those seeking recovery for all people who have been historically underserved, marginalized, and oppressed. And I see that we have Nico joined us.
Hello, everybody.
Do you want to say who you are?
Yes, the most obvious one, my name is Nico, right? I am the Western Mass Regional Coordinator for MOAR and a resident of Springfield, Massachusetts. Pleasure to be here.
Okay. And like we said, we have Juan is the founder and executive director of the Hispanic American Library Incorporated. The HAL, it's called the HAL?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Yes, how?
Okay, has been a 501c3 since October 13th of 1994. The HAL has been housed in Springfield Union Station since 2020. The HAL offers cultural immersion programs and services that brings the gap between the Spanish and English speaking Latin American Hispanic communities, enhancing access to literature, history, and music and art. So that's the bio. And if you would like to take it away.
Okay, thank you, Julie. It is a pleasure to be asked to speak. I know that Nico had asked me for several months for me to be able to share the story. And before I get into anything, I did, since I had the book, this is an awesome book, by the way.
Oh.
And I'll explain what we do at the Hispanic American Library. But since I was asked to speak, I actually read a lot of information that's in the book. I also went to the web to be guided with additional information, so I can recognize, what's happening in other locations and the impact that it has on people who are either in mental health or have a situation with addiction. Right. So I just thought that I acknowledge also the founders and collaborators. I did meet Marianne Frangilli's, I believe it was last week at one of the colleges. They were providing information. They had speakers. That's when I personally met Hannah outside of the phone situation, right? And then in reading, uh, another person, Leroy Kelly, I just want to start out by saying the impact, also the hard work that MOAR has been doing in maintaining the doors open since 1991, expanding the message that recovery is possible. So I definitely wanted to acknowledge that. So Julie read the bio related to what I do, and I did write a guideline, right? So it's like having a format. That way, I'm more organized, and that's the way that I actually relate to what I try to do. Um, but so the Hispanic American Library is the only Latino library in the state of Massachusetts. And the reason that I started the library was because I used to do research in UMass. UMass is actually one of the universities that is at Tower Square, the location I'll explain that I looking forward to move to. And the research at that particular time in local libraries, the books that I had about me were not existent. Right, they were either too old, not relevant, and I would have to be, I would have to tell the person, listen, can you give me the book? They would have to go to Worcester Library, etc. And I didn't think that was fair. And it should be more accessible to the community. The other thing that was lacking in the community was transportation. So it's hard for really folks to engage because transportation has always been an issue. We do, one of the things we do at the library is we do literacy for kids. So again, that's why I know that even today, transportation is a big issue. And if the agency doesn't have the money to provide transportation, then it's harder for people in the community to engage for different reasons. We teach from age of 3 to 13 the culture of Latino or Latino culture, right? So we can teach you about Venezuela, we can teach you about Cuba, we can teach you about Puerto Rico, and countries that are Latin American. They get quiz, they get information related to that, and we have a muralist who teaches the kids art. And the reason I'm saying that before I share a lot of different information about myself is that it took a lot of struggle to be able to maintain. Julie talked about the incorporation October 13, but it wasn't an easy transition, right? 3 years ago, we finally got some money that was very helpful in having our own location. We're actually housed in places that other people in the community are very aware of. There used to be a Puerto Rican cultural center, similar to what's happening in Chicago and other big cities. They do have cultural centers. Here in Springfield, we have the Greek Cultural Center. We have the Irish Cultural Center. We have centers for different people in the community. We don't have a Puerto Rican Cultural Center because that doesn't exist no more. And there's value and there's a center where people that are similar in nature can gather and do things that are important in the community base. So I do understand the struggles, but as of 3 years ago, we were finally able to get some state line item money. And now I'm seeking federal funding to expand and possibly have a Latino cultural center. And the reason I'm saying Latino is because it's very inclusive. And it's not anything to do with a Puerto Rican cultural center. It's very inclusive. Down there. I just got distracted because if you ever come to the Union Station, they're doing a transition right now with my space. They're renovating. So my office right now is all glass, which means that anything that I do is very visible and people knock on the window because they think I'm Amtrak, Peter Pan, and they think I just do bus transportation. So with that, and the people who actually knock on the window, they have different services, and we provide them the location where those services can be met. Across the street from me, which is a 2-minute walk, there's a innovative assistance services, and they do mental health and addiction. So there's people that have different needs. So on a personal level, outside of the library and the renovation, and hopefully we'll be moving to a better location where we can provide services such as bringing authors, musicians, and artists to expand upon the legacy of Latinos and what they have actually done. On a personal level, I have a license for, I have a LADAC, right? LADAC 1. And that LADAC I was grandfather in, so I do have a license for alcoholism and drug addiction. That was grandfather in when I worked for the sheriff department, because I was doing clinical work within the sheriff department. And eventually, after the years that it took, they actually provided me with that license. I also have a master's in management from Cambridge University. For many years, I hold also a gambling specialist certificate. And I used to do batterers intervention for Gandera for 11 years. And presently, I work for Innovative Physician Services, which is the agency across the street. And I work as many or as less hours as I choose to. So it's good to be able to have those options. At 66, I retired from the military. I did 20 years working for the military. I also did the 20-year working for the sheriff department. Maybe I could get Social Security along the way. Just to share that one, you know? So I'm not really in the need to work, but I feel that it's important to really provide a service on a community level, which has nothing to do with finances, right? So I'm lucky I'm able to say that. I've been in recovery since 1988, January 3, 1988. And there's been several changes since I got into recovery. Some words have changed, and I'll explain as best as I can. But in 1988, when we call it clean, I attend a program called Narcotics Anonymous, right? I used to attend Alcoholics Anonymous. When I started out, there was such a thing as Cocaine Anonymous. There's a lot of other anonymous, and I do understand that, but related to the personal, away from the business aspect, I actually worked for BSACs for a quick moment, and that was a process that it took me to be able to get a job at the sheriff department. And in regards to the recovery, I met many people, many different talents, many different skills, who are actually providers of services in the community. And that helps me because what it tells me is that there's similar people and similar needs. And the location where I'm at, there's a lot of overdoses. Springfield Union Station has a lot of overdoses. There's different reasons why people come to the station. And I try to befriend as many people as possible because I think that everyone needs a personal touch in regards to, I'm not any different than those people who are still having situations with their addiction, right? I just have a different, I was given a different opportunity to be able to be a guider or an assistant for folks who have that dilemma, right? And I'm able to understand that. When I started out in 1988, there was rarely any services in Spanish. So again, I start my recovery process in January 1988. And I used to attend and go to trainings. I used to go to different agencies. They didn't have interpreters. Now we have two tonight. We have Justin, we have Bridget. At that time, there was no translators. services would not render in Spanish because there was no one to render them in Spanish. So I've been an advocate since my eyes awakened in 1988, and saw the need. And anywhere that I would attend, I would always ask, do you have a bilingual translator? Is the services done in Spanish? Do you have someone that may be able to provide that service? Right. Because I saw the need. I saw the need in Narcotics Anonymous as well. I am the co-founder of the first Narcotics Anonymous meeting in Spanish in Western Mass, which actually there were 6, 3 of them passed away, died as a result of using substances. And the 3 that remain, I just happen to be the co-founder of Spanish Narcotics Anonymous, because from Springfield, it went to Worcester, it went to Lynn, it went to Fitchburg. So Springfield is actually the home place for Narcotics Anonymous in Spanish. And what that means is that within Narcotics Anonymous, they also do additional things. And I wanted to participate on a bilingual capacity. So I'm very stronghold on providing services in both languages. When I teach the kids, we teach them how to read in Spanish and English, because I know the power that there is in being able to provide a service in 2 different languages as possible. But there were a lot of people that I met along the way that had good intentions of staying clean or sober or in recovery, because now the words have changed. But the idea is that they were not able to, because if you talk to me in English and I don't want to understand it, it's going to be difficult for me to comprehend how I can do my life one day at a time, right? So that's why I'm very thankful to services that are provided. Today, they're a little bit more prevalent. And I'm happy that I'm able to see that. I'm very happy that I'm able to see the trainings that are in Spanish and English. Most people know Hanel, and I believe when he started out, the hope was to be able to provide future counselors the opportunity to gain the training in Spanish. And that is extremely powerful, because when I started out in 1888, I think he started possibly be about that time. Now we have so many bilingual Latinos in the field that is pretty amazing. Right? When I started out, they didn't have that. I'm just looking at the notes to make sure that I remember some things that may be important. When I started my recovery, there were only about 4 meetings available in Western Massachusetts. So we would travel to different locations, because there's a saying in recovery that if something is lacking, either you make it happen and you start it, or you have to travel to locations where they may provide you that service. Western Massachusetts had no services for a guy like me. So either I made it happen, right, in regards to Spanish Narcotics Anonymous, or we would travel to different locations. Thank God that I'm able to understand the English, because I would go to any meeting that was available. All right. And again, transportation is an issue for most people in early recovery. So it's important, I believe, to have a support system, somebody that does have transportation. I clinked into someone who had transportation, and I was able to go to different locations. I didn't come into recovery. I was 123 pounds. I was, my skin was yellow, right? So all these things that happen early on, and then they help you to the support system. And when I say support, my mindset is a little bit different, because what I learned was Alcoholics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, and Narcotics Anonymous. That's what I learned, and that's what I incorporated. Nowadays, we have more possibilities. We have different possibilities, right? We have different choices. We have different paths. But you have to remember that early on, we're talking about 1988, a lot of those paths were not available, right? So today they're more accessible, because someone such as Leroy, Julie, Marianne started to make a movement to make those things possible. And in Springfield, I attempted to do the same thing, and so far it's worked. So I have 36 and a half years substance-free, clean, not using. Some people would say long-term recovery. And that's pretty, because the words have changed, and that's all I'm trying to say. Words have changed, but the idea, my prevalent idea was be to not use a day at a time, because anything's possible. Some of my friends have died after 20 years without using. I have friends who have gone back after 25 years. And I mean, I have people die along the way that were good friends of mine. And sometimes you can't really, all we can do is pray. All we can do is pray. And what I'm trying to say basically is that whatever the method may be, and I learned over the years, because I mean, if I started out in 1988, I started to get training, different kind of trainings. And early in my recovery, I could not work with people who were using methadone, right? Early in my recovery, Suboxone did not really exist, right? It didn't exist. Not of the way that medical assistant treatment is today, right? And I couldn't work in addiction with sex predators, right? So there's a certain population that I had difficulty working with. And I learned over the years to make adjustments and to try to provide services for different people in need without looking at a specific situation that they may have been involved in. And I'm glad it took over the years, because that means that my mindset is changing. That means that I'm more comfortable with different people. And I actually had the opportunity, good experience, while I work in the prison, to work with a gentleman who was young, and according to him, he was KKK. Right. So addressing needs and services for people who think different, act different, may have ingrained different type of information. It's not so easy to absorb, right? So it's hard to work with a certain population. And at the end of the months of conversation, he chose to work with me. And I had no issues working with whoever it may be. I also had an opportunity to work with people who had sex situation, right? So as I change, I can see things differently, and I can work and provide services, because that's really the essence of the work itself. It's really not about me, right? And that's really what I found out to be so important. I can share with you the diversity and equity and inclusiveness. A few situations, and the most bothersome for me was when I was a child, and I used to translate for my mother, who spoke no English after 20 plus years in America, and how people would look on you, young people. I'm not talking about anything specific. In regard, diversity to me is whether you're white, black, whatever it may be. They had biases against people like me trying to reach out for services, and that's the way that I perceived it. And I probably perceived it correctly, because today, as a 66-year-old person working in a community, I still see that sometimes people are not as diverse as they mentioned. They're not as inclusive, and they are not equitable because we know about payment, you know, and the pay scale. We do understand that, and we understand the equity for the same work being performed or additional work being performed. And I had situations with my own community in regards to being included. Here we call them gatekeepers. I don't know about where you live or the location. And we can identify people that are not inclusive very easily, very easily. And I still have a personal problem with that. The Hispanic American Library that I founded, they didn't make it that easy in the community as well. And it took a while. Now they're maybe getting comfortable in being able to assist us. On a business level, we have to also look at who is providing the information. We have a board, and sometimes boards have disagreements. Members of the board have disagreements, just like in my house, right? My daughters don't think this, or my sons don't think that. Actually, my daughter is a dentist. My son is a Springfield police officer. They're my son is 27. He's a police officer. My daughter's 29. And then the rebel is that my 19-year-old son, who's similar to me when I was younger, you know. But I do understand that it takes a moment to find you, right? It takes a moment to figure out actually what people actually want to do with the rest of their life. I can give you my personal information on the military rank and files. They also have favoritism. Things are done in rank, right? And sometimes your saying is not what's validated. It's just something that you work with. And I was very lucky because I got a lot of education in the military. They actually assisted me with my college degree. They gave me the opportunity to live in Europe for 2.5 years. I lived in Germany at the age of 18. They when 9/11 happened, I was still in the military, and they sent me to New Jersey. In New Jersey, they provide you training to go to war. Right, that's the specific training. You train in peace as you prepare for war. I didn't have to go. They actually allowed me to stay in Jersey. And I don't know about equity, but we were protecting $1 million homes. So everybody has a specific task. We don't choose the task. That is, we just don't choose. You're asked and you say yes. How can I serve? And fortunately for me, after the 9/11, they allowed me to retire. And the only reason I retired because my youngest son, the rebel, 19 years old, was about to be born. And I wanted to spend some time with my 19-year-old or my baby at that time. You know, but I still look at medical assisted treatment. So I'm still a clinician. At the end of the road, I'm still a clinician. I work with people in mental health. I work with people in addiction. I will be retiring from the field if it works out in December of this year. And they would like me to do groups because I specialize in group settings. And I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do a sabbatical. I'm gonna rethink what God has in store. I'm not gonna make the decision. I'll take a break, and the reason I use that word because it's what works for me. I understand that there's many paths in recovery. I stay busy. I have the typical sponsor because even as a business person, even as a people see me as an accomplished individual, because I've done things in Springfield that are first. Um, I have an event that I started in 1999, which is part of the Revolution in Puerto Rico. We do that event still today. And I may work as a clinician for group settings, but the I still have somewhat of a problem with MAT, because I've been working with people in the addiction field for a long time, and sometimes they've been I'll give you two examples. So I did say by the window, so no throwing rocks at the glass, right? I think I heard that biblical sense, but I have people in methadone for about 20 years, and when I engage with them, they tell me that it's hard for them to take a vacation, let's say Puerto Rico, uh, because unless they get keep on, it gets very complicated. Um, and I have people who I'll be very supportive, and I won't share all my thoughts with the client, but uh, you know, they started 6, 8 milligrams of Suboxone, and now they do 16 a day. So my thoughts are about, instead of increasing, maybe methods of decreasing until the person is comfortable. I always voice that opinion. I know it's not heard because I know money is important for work to be done. And sometimes we can sidestep the money and do a better service for the client in regards to reduction. Um, and my personal thought, anytime I talk to the client, as a clinician, I talk to the client about medications because I work with their psychiatrist, and I've been working with the psychiatrist for at least 10 years. And sometimes they talk to me about the medication, the effect, and what they don't feel. And I request for the possibility of maybe meds being looked at. Maybe you don't have to do, let me give you a quick example, trazodone and sulfidone, Ambien, right? Because they're both sleep medication, supposedly. So maybe, again, we can work on a reduction, or we can look at the possibility of a social method, psychosocial method. Um, and I think that we still have a lot of work to do. I am grateful for the opportunity to be able to look at different methods of recovery. If you talk to me in 1988, I would have maybe a heated discussion about Narcotics Anonymous is the best method, Alcoholics Anonymous is the best method. 1988, I wouldn't hear anything you're saying. I would tell you exactly, listen, do what I do and sit in the front and shut your mouth. That's very typical. Sit in the front, shut your mouth, you got nothing to say. And talk to me after 3 months. And that was the early teachings that I was provided. And I thought people were being rude to me when I heard it. I've learned a lot since. I learned that the trainings that I attended, where many people with many different paths have shared their story, uh, are amazing. It's a teachable moment. Even what I call my clean time, because that's how I learned. I didn't learn about long-term recovery. I didn't learn, these are actually new words that are being incorporated. I understand 100%. But if I came from the old school, 1988, it just takes a transition. It means that I learned to be receptive. Being receptive is very important because it's not my call in regards to somebody's method, right? And in regards to the business, and I went with this, also the personal and business, I think being inclusive to me means sharing with each and everyone. being able to be receptive of the conversation that you have with different people, their perception of how they will stay long-term recovery, they can stay away from a substance. And I think that when I retire, I'll probably be doing the same, trying to help people get into doing better for themselves. And I'm gonna end with this. They told me if I did not use one day at a time, that the people that I share with and the people that I love would also be an expansion, right? Because it's individual, right? What I do to take care of myself is individual. But as I do me, my wife and kids will be able to see the possibilities, right? And building a community, it's not an easy path. So I really appreciate the work that you guys do. I appreciate the opportunity. Nico, I know Nico for quite a while. And keep doing what you're doing. It's a blessing to be able to do what you do. And helping someone is not what everyone wants to do, but it's the right thing to do. Right? It's the right thing to do. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Juan. That was a lot of great information. What I'd like to do now is open it up for people for questions.
Hi, Julie. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Juan, and thank you for coming. Julie, do you know how come like the chat isn't working where we could send messages to each other? And because I was gonna ask Juan if I could get his email and his number because I catalog all the speakers. Oh, by the way, Juan, my name is Darryl Wright, and I work for MOAR, and I'm a recovery coach. Okay, so
Let me take a look at that. And we have Julie.
Hi, Juan. Thanks for coming and speaking tonight. My name is Julie Pike. Again, I am a recovery coach with MOAR. Thank you again, especially for all that you have done for the recovery community. My question to you is, when you were working towards getting the Spanish meetings up and going, how difficult was it for you or challenging to get the material in Spanish?
Oh, good question. Okay. There was no material. So Narcotics Anonymous, to include Alcoholics Anonymous, if I'm able to. So we had no literature. We had no literature. Now there's a lot of literature in Spanish. But at that time there was no literature available in Spanish. California, which is the let's call it headquarters for Narcotics Anonymous, New York City for Alcoholics Anonymous. So we were able to slowly get information in Spanish. So everything that may be in Spanish today was non-existent. Even Narcotics Anonymous and an English level, they only had what they call the little white book. They didn't have what we call the basic, which is one of the first books. So we really had no materials, so to speak, either in Spanish to include too much in Narcotics Anonymous, but basic stuff to be able to learn about not using.
So you did
And
basic
now we have a
training.
lot. Now we have a lot.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Juan, for all that you've done. I'm sure you pushed the pencil on getting that material printed.
I had the first copy of what they call Steps to Recovery, which later became the book.
Thank you, Juan. Yeah, I remember the days of the white book.
The white book, yes. That's right.
Corey.
Thank you. Hi, Juan. Again, my name is Corey. I work with MOAR. I also live here in Springfield. I have a question for you regarding your heritage library. As a mother of two Hispanic Jamaican sons, do you have, does your organization have classes or like informational seminars where I could take my grandkids and they could learn about that culture, that heritage that my kids may not necessarily know due to having been raised in Western Mass by a Caucasian mom?
Thank you, Corey. I personally had issues related to not having information. So we teach kids from the age of 3 to the age of 13. Right now, due to renovations, if you keep my number, which is in the chat, you can call me at any time. And we try to provide the information in both Spanish and English. We do have events. I have a youth program that I didn't get the money for this year. But in regards to the youth program, I built a good relationship with them. It was just me being late putting the grant together. Had nothing to do with them. And we do a lot of things related, like the basketball, the arts. So we do have a lot of things that we do with the youth as well, outside of the reading and the art that we do on a Saturday program. For adults, such as yourself, we do several events on a cultural level. And we also have authors come in every month. So we have professors from UMass doing their thing on their books. So slowly we're trying to build. This will be our 4th year, what I call $1 to be able to do that.
That sounds really awesome. Thank you so much for information. Definitely something I'm interested in checking out with my family. If I could just ask one more thing and then I'll pass it along. Does your organization offer anything specific to Hispanic families in recovery? Does it touch upon that at all? And I'm asking that because of your background in recovery, because that also affects my children, who 2 of them were born unfortunately substance use disorder.
So in the library, the services provide are not recovery based on an individual basis. If anyone talks to me, so I've been in Springfield for over 36 years. A lot of people, even that they come to the station, they know my background because I work in corrections and a lot of them are incarcerated. So a lot of people know about me, even though I keep a low profile. But anytime someone comes to me for whatever the reason, I make sure that that's addressed and the service is provided. Yeah, that's what I'm known for in Springfield.
Fair enough. I really appreciate you. Thank you. We're definitely
No
going to check
problem.
you out.
Thank you.
Nico,
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Juan, for speaking, man. You know I love you. I got nothing but good things to say, and if I had bad ones, I wouldn't tell you. But you know, one of the things that I extremely love is the fact that when you see that there's a bridge or a gap in services, you're not somebody to just talk about it. You collaborate to make it happen. And before me ever showing up to the Springfield Holyoke area, you know, I was born in New Bedford, and then from New Bedford, my father worked in a cranberry bog in Carver. And after I left New Bedford, I went to Puerto Rico. But then when I returned to Massachusetts at 6 years old, it was in Carver, and I was the only brown person who attended that school. So, and when I came to what I call Little Puerto Rico, Holyoke in Springfield, there was a change in language, but there was that you didn't see a gap in being able to get services or talk to somebody, because there either be somebody there who spoke Spanish and who can translate for you, you know. But I just do know, I think back as to my father, by the time that he went to that part of Massachusetts, how he must have felt trying to get his license, or trying to find a job and not being able to find somebody who speaks their language. So I congratulate you on opening up that library and making that step forward for access to the Latino community, to be able to get books written by people who live like that, by people who speak their language. And I want to thank you again for talking about that equity. you know, I'm always battling. You know, if you put me in a company, most likely I'll find out how much everybody gets paid within a couple of months. I mean, that's just whenever I see a gap, I always look at the money, right? And then whenever you know, and it was one of those things like everybody went on vacation, they had wonderful stories to tell, you know, but where could you afford to go to? And when you look at the individuals who couldn't afford to go, they all look like me, you know. So what do you think the gaps or the influence that needed for equity to be equal for everyone who works in any career, regardless of race, color, ethnicity, or sex?
So I had a little noise in the background due to my location, but equity in regards to being employed. Okay. So I think that the individual person, granted, like I'll look at the motivation, I looked at the performance, and those people who are actually working with me, I don't use the word working for me because we all work together, even the people that are getting paid by the agency. So a normal, typical without the schooling that some people look for, I'll pay $20, right, as a startup. And I was granted the opportunity to go to school, and as people attend to, let's say, specific areas, they increase in payment for their performance. And I'm fortunate that just entry would be 20. We do have people with a different experience that actually make more per hour, but there's a lot of different possibilities. And of course, the budget for the agency, right? What type of budget do you have? How many people can you employ? What kind of benefits medically? Because medical benefits also is part of the equation.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you.
Leah, did I see you had your hand up?
Yes, it was me.
Oh,
Hi, woman. Really
Hi.
nice to meet you. My name is Leah Randolph. I am the chair for MOAR DEI, and I just wanted to say welcome. One,
Thank you.
I'm very impressed with and interested in your transition from working with substance use disorder and corrections into the Latino American Cultural Center in '98. I mean, during that time, there was so much that was needed. I was around at that time too. I'm a first child. So I came out of First Incorporated. And so you know, I know the story and I understand, you know, what was really going on with the Latino community, which is my second question. And you know, and first being, if you don't know the history, you may know it, that first being the program that actually took on the Latino men's program when there was no one else to take it, and we were about to lose it from the community in Nataskia. That's how we ended up with the Latina House at First Incorporated. So, you know, with with such a great need, what made you decide to go in the direction that you went in?
If I say God, would that be a
That's fine. I
dissertation?
mean, that works. That works for me.
mhm.
Okay, so what happened actually, I didn't intend a lot of the things that happened in my life. I didn't
Mhm.
intend, I didn't plan, I did not have the goal setting skills. So when I made the decision to stay clean, not use, along the way, I saw that there were different needs in the Hispanic community. And I just made a decision that I would do my best with those needs. Uh, Even my the things that happened are pretty interesting because I didn't intend to work in corrections. In my mind, I was going to be locked up in corrections. right? So I was able to experience that early on in my youth because I'm raised in New York City and Chicago, gang involved during that time. So I just saw there was a need and I was able to uh, attempt to fulfill that need. I didn't really have people with me um, with the same motivation. And I still see the need and I'm still looking forward to providing additional services uh, that may not be happening today or they're not happening as frequently. And there's always a need. And as long as I'm able to, I would try to fulfill a need because I know how it feels to be looked at, be spit at, being an IV user, crack fiend, um, and the way people judge me, looked at me, and had nothing to do with me. So I want to change the score. I want to change the methods. Still today.
So how did you connect how do you connect the two? How do you, help people to be able to, who are in recovery or hopefully seeking, help in recovery who, have no knowledge of who they are and where they come from because, all they know about themselves is themselves as an addict and have really fallen low and have no self-esteem. I mean, I can see a huge connection here, but I'm interested in your connection with, bringing people in and helping them to understand that in order to know where you're going, you have to know where you came from, but also to help to build that self-esteem through, your library, the library.
Yeah, David Lewis, when he started, I'm not sure the correct name, African Diaspora Mental Health. Um, he worked in the same agency I worked for. Della Blake, who's actually in the board, she works in the sheriff department. I don't call anybody boss. She's the person who got paid a little bit more to tell me what to do. Because I had to make a transition in language in my brain. Like certain words are used to keep you at a certain level. I try not to use those. In regards to having an identity crisis, that's the reason that we started the Hispanic American Library. And back to David, and what he does, I know that I forgot the word he used. Actually, the person who works from when I went to the meeting not that long ago. But the idea is that having an identity crisis, not knowing who I am, that's the reason Hispanic American Library was incorporated, and that's the reason that we take kids in from age 3 to 13, because if they learn who they are early on, and they learn how to balance history in the making, let's call it, maybe they'll feel better about who they really are. I lived in America all my life, but I still know who I am. In regards to the history, I am Puerto Rican, and I was born in Puerto Rico. I say to people, and they may not enjoy it, but I'm not North American because I was born in Puerto Rico. I just happen to be here. I'm going to do the best I can while here. I'm going to serve the country in the capacity that is needed. But I also have to remember my communities first. I have to be supportive of my community, even when I'm misjudged. Let's say that.
My last question, I'm sorry, folks, but we've done interviews with some different Latino groups, and so the question always is, okay, so what is it? Is it Latin? How should we identify you? And we've gotten all these different names, and so is it Latinx? Is it Latino? Is it Hispanic? So what's your take on that?
My take on that at the age of 66 is that even in recovery, a lot of words have been changed and things are modernized, and I love it. I understand that. But typically, I even have Puerto Ricans tell me, why did you choose Hispanic American Library? It could have been Latino uh, library. So I go back to let's try to be supportive of each other. I don't choose your path of recovery. What works for me works for me. And let's be inclusive. But I even have Puerto Ricans tell me, why not Latino? And the thing is, that's going to be the happening thing until I die. I already know that it is what it is, and people are not going to like one thing or the other. I don't look at that at my age. I look at let's work together. Let's agree to disagree. Let's focus on the community, because sometimes some people can be disruptive. And I want to do the work, take the heat when I need to take the heat, and go put the AC on. You know, yeah.
Got it.
You're gonna take heat. You're gonna take heat.
Oh no, I'm a heat taker, but I'm also a heat giver.
And that's why we balance each other out well. Yeah,
Absolutely.
balance.
So nice to meet you. And I'm actually very good friends with David.
Okay, great, great. We did work together for quite a while.
So, Juan, you mentioned that you've had conversations and you've worked with psychiatrists around like reduction or possibly taking a look at other ways of prescribing meds. Do you get a lot of pushback with that or?
So directly, the psychiatrist would do what they feel the services, what they need to do for the client. I do things sometimes indirectly because I'm not going to change their mind. I just do my progress notes, advocating for the client. Um, I put the information what the client is telling me in regards to 5 milligrams is not working, 10 milligrams to do even better. And I have to even, but I also have to look at whether the client is seeking medication or whether the client is actually honest in what's going on based on the years that I may be with the client. But everything is noted, and then I go indirectly and provide the information to um, there's about 5 people who started the business, and then hopefully they in return will read the notes and say, okay, why is this happening? I mean, the client's not anywhere they should be over a certain period of time. um, I look at that, and then I look also at clients that are seeking medication and they sell the medication. So there's a few variables in regards to individual clients, you know.
Yeah,
Some clients
so
I would not
I think
advocate for.
I'm more asking about the psychiatrists and trying to find out if they're really taking a look at what's best for the client, because you said they might have prescribed 2 sorts of sleeping meds. And if it's based on like what they've been taught, or are they trying to rethink things and change with the new way that addiction, you know,
Some
impacts
psych,
people,
yeah,
and medication impacts people.
yeah. Some psychiatrists, I do have their phone number. There's other psychiatrists that work with us. I don't have their personal number. Sometimes I will call the psychiatrist and tell them that things they may not be aware of if they didn't read the notes. Um, we do have new psychiatrists, and those are the ones that I'm sending the progress notes to, so they can revisit. Because I can't challenge the psychiatrist, but I could put the notes accordingly to help the psychiatrist understand that there's no visible changes. The person is a little bit more critical, and sometimes they will work with me.
Okay.
Sometimes they'll work with me. Most of the time they look at because I do the notes, but I also talk to different owners to see if maybe they can look at my particular client.
And then you spoke about why you created the Hispanic library, because there wasn't a mutual what?
There was no
Okay, cultural center.
say yes.
And you said that they had one for, could you remind me the 2 that they had?
Yeah. So over 20 years ago, they had the Puerto Rican Culture Center. Um, and I was a board member when the executive director got fired. Um, and based on politics, the new person that took over, they didn't really provide her with support. So I was actually, my library started there at the Puerto Rican Cultural Center. That's where the basement approach happened with the library. Uh, and if possible, I'm trying to bring not the Puerto Rican Cultural Center back to Springfield. I'm trying to bring Latino Cultural Center so we can work with anyone and everyone, but specifically the Latinos, right? So if you're Cuban, if you're Dominican, we don't need to talk bad about each other. We need to be
Mhm.
supportive of each other.
So, and they already
Mhm.
have cultural centers for, in Springfield, is it what, for Asian or Asian Cultural Center or,
They have the Jordan, Raymond Jordan, I believe that's the name of it, which is very specific to African Americans. They have the Greek Culture Center. They have beautiful Irish Culture Center. Uh, so they have, oh, the Italian Culture Center. We can't forget that one. But on an Hispanic level, we don't have a place to be able to continue to provide these services. That's why I am very
and why is it so difficult? Because there's such a large population of Hispanics there. Why is,
I politics, gatekeepers.
yeah, and I
Because we
like
do.
that. I like that gatekeeper thing.
Okay. Okay.
I like that.
Uh, I'm making a transition, so I remind myself and others, I'm going to leave. Somebody needs to take over, but we need to make it happen. And then I'll peacefully leave. I don't leave peacefully. I'll throw a little bit of noise. When it happens, then thank God somebody else will replace me because I am replaceable. I got to remember, um, as long as the mission continues.
Juan, thank you so much. If you don't mind, maybe further down the line, we can, contact you with more, for some more information around what's going on in that community. This has been great. Does anybody else have anything or they would like to? Okay. Well, thank you, Juan. Thank you so much. Thank
Thank you.
you. Is Nico still here? Oh, I think he jumped off. And thank you. I just want to thank Nico for recommending you because this has been very educational.
Thank you. Call me
Okay.
anytime.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Okay. Thank you. Take care.
Okay.
Can I get